Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Feeding Curiosity. As always, you're joined by me, Eric Wenzel, your host, and on today's episode, we went over the controversial show, Euphoria. And first things first, we did say we were going to cover the Batman, but we wound up having too much to say in this conversation, so we split it up into two episodes. So there's about an hour of each. All right, and now some quick backstory on the show or premise of Euphoria. And Euphoria is a really, to me, interesting story. It mostly circles around the story of a 17-year-old girl named Rue and her basically experience of high school as she has just come out of rehab. And very quickly, she has relapsed and not told anybody. And from there, it really spirals into stories about all of the different characters and like who they are and the different experiences they've had that then inform the decisions they make. We try to tackle all of the different themes that we really liked, the different episodes we liked, and the either technical aspects about it, but also what were the themes the characters were going through that helped us inform something about ourselves as humans on this planet. Because I think a lot of these stories, even though they are blown up to 11, if you just take it at face value, high schoolers with going to crazy parties, having, all these drugs and sex. But that is not to say that you cannot find value in these stories or shouldn't say they are not valuable in any sense. The last thing we'll say is we do kind of talk about this stuff, so this will be an explicit episode for those, and we are also going to spoil things. So if you don't want to be spoiled or if you haven't caught up to the end of season 2, please proceed at your own risk. We really don't talk about too many plot point stuff. We do just glaze over things and we bounce around a lot, so there is that warning. But in all, I hope you all enjoy this, and I'll just kind of leave this as a question before I pass it off to the actual conversation, which is, if when it comes to stories like this that deal with children or minors that are very mature and the things that are going on are very mature, what do you say about having art such as this? Because I personally think that the point of stories like this is to force us to think in a way that it doesn't actually have to happen to real people. And the only way we can get through hard and complex things such as this is by making dangerous art. And I think that's all we can hope for. And then the discussions that we have, such as this one after the fact, is what provides us a way for us to find a better way forward. And with that, everyone, I will pass it off to the conversation with Jordan Chris, and I hope you all enjoy. Back on the podcast, we're going to call this like a deep dive episode, but it's like a 2-for-1 deal.
Definitely.
So, we talked about we were going to do something with Euphoria, so that's what we're going to do for the first part of this, because I think we're far enough out that spoilers are kind of whatever at this point.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't spoiled it at this point for yourself, then you go watch it and then be spoiled or whatever.
Yeah. We'll put a disclaimer. They'll be all
yeah.
right.
And then the second half, we're going to talk about the Matt Reeves Batman film that just went out. Well, it's like 2 weeks now, so technically past the spoiler area, but we'll try to make it as spoiler free as possible. So with that, let's just kick it off with Euphoria, because I think this is kind of one of those shows that you really put me onto, and I had no expectation going into it and then was happily blown away by it.
Right. That's some of the best times to like get into something when you're like, let me just watch it and open-minded,
Yeah. That was like Game of Thrones for me. I didn't know anything about it, and then season 3 had come out in like DVD, and I was like, you know what? I think I'll watch it. I only bought like season 1, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God. And then it like hook, line, and sinker, because I binged watched 3 seasons over like 2 weeks.
Yeah, Game of Thrones for me was the opposite, because you were one of the people who said it's really good, and I borrowed the DVD.
Oh,
set
you did? I forgot.
Yeah. About that. So I was like, this is going to be amazing. And the first episode, I was like, I don't know if I'm into that. Then I was like, let me just keep watching. And then I think by like the 3rd episode, I was like, oh, this is tight.
Yeah.
I was like, this is dope.
I would say it's a slow burn. It's like the first episode kind of hits you with like, wait, what? And then it totally takes off after that.
Yeah, it's that happens a lot with shows and Euphoria. Euphoria especially, but it's a little more jarring. But they kind of you got to buy into the world a little bit. So like, yeah, it's that kind of you don't know what to expect because you haven't seen it. The characters are writing like you got to get acclimated to it.
Yeah.
Where Euphoria starts off and it's like, oh shit,
It kind of tells you about the main character Rue, who's played by Zendaya. To me, like this entire time when I would watch it, because I basically watched it with like 3 weeks remaining. Like I basically finished season two with like maybe a 1 or 2 week delay.
Mm,
Um, and so like season one was really fresh for me when for most people it wasn't very fresh at that point.
right?
Um, but I always kind of got the sense that Zendaya's character, they were trying to paint the story that her something happened in her childhood where she had like ADD or something, and then they gave her I think Valium or
Okay,
something like that. That basically made her sit still and pay attention. But she kind of does her monologue in the beginning of that first episode, saying, "Yeah, after that, middle school was kind of a blur, and I don't really remember much of anything." And I'm like, "Huh." To me, it like felt like this story of this character who became a drug addict, but it was also because we use these drugs because it's like sit down, shut up, and pay attention
right.
to
Yeah,
to to make you fit into society.
right. And she was like predisposed to like what would later kind of go to ruin her life. You know what I mean? Like something that
Abs-
was intended to help her ended up being
exactly.
like the crux of her whole
The
character, you know?
catalyst, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I forgot that because like you said, it's been I don't remember what year season one came out, but it's been a little bit since I
It's
watched
been a
it. You know what I
while.
mean?
Probably
Um,
2019, because it's 2 year typically delay between seasons, roughly.
yeah. Yeah, and that's accurate. And so we'll get back to like the details in a second. But I remember when season one first came out, I didn't want to watch it. I was like, I watched the pilot and I was like, this is too much for me. I
Mm,
was like, this is too much. And it was specifically the scene with Jules and Cal.
yeah.
And
Was that
it's
episode one?
I'm pretty sure that's episode one.
Yeah, no wonder that. That's a hell of a.
Yeah, I was just like, it was okay, so the first part is like, okay, these kids are in high school, and it was just very like sexual,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean, and like graphically sexual. It wasn't like just they hinted. It was like, oh no, we're gonna show you.
Oh no, it's really
Um,
specific, and that's something that HBO doesn't shy away from at all.
right, right, and they're known for. And I guess I was naive to not think about that. But then also with like Zendaya as like the main character, and like Drake produced it. So I was
Wait,
just
I did
like,
not know that. That's wild.
yeah, yeah, his I don't know what the production company is called, but it's his production company. They have this other show called Top Boy on Netflix. But yeah, so when I like heard who's involved, I'm like, okay, it's probably like I'm sure it'll be heavy, but it'll be like
Man,
palatable,
yeah,
you know?
manageable.
Yeah. And I was just like, I couldn't get over the fact that it was depicting high schoolers. Granted, the actors are older in real life; they're all in like mid 20s or something like that. Um, and showing them in that kind of light and as like
Right.
sexualizing minors, and I was just like, I couldn't get past it. So it was interesting because then I was like, okay, let me just try it again and watch it for what it is, and kind of let go of my own just preconceived idea of what is comfortable or should be allowed on TV, right? And I'm
Yeah.
glad I did. I'm glad I got over that.
See, that's a really interesting one because I wasn't even going into it worrying about that per se, because maybe with people's, like I was already predisposed that this was going to be something worth watching because of the layers of controversy or just the general buzz about the show. So it was just like, okay, that's a lot. But I kind of like took it in stride, kind of, or it's like don't overlay your own perception on the thing, like especially with these things that are like really controversial like this, or easily controversial I should say.
Yeah,
It's I try to like not just look at it at face value, but say, okay, so what is the story trying to confront me with, through the vehicle
right.
of these characters, right? And it's like, because you don't even know who Cal was at that point. Also, it's like the
Exactly. Yeah.
character of Cal doesn't unfold before you until like midway through the first season alone,
Hmm.
and it's like, wait, what the heck? It's just like a layer of
Right. And that's when it starts getting like the drama of it starts getting
yeah,
interesting, and the narrative, and like the suspense, and that they don't shy away that it's like it's fuck like they know it's fucked up. They're not trying to hide that fact, right? Um, But yeah, I mean, I think people who kind of came in and started watching it at season two were might have been a little more like primed for what they're gonna get into. You know what I mean? But like, I didn't know much. I had no idea what it was about. I was just like, it's called
Yeah,
Euphoria. The trailer looks like it's gonna be shot cool. Zendaya's in
yeah,
it. She's cool. All right, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like that's all I knew.
right. I
But no,
thought
I
also
mean,
too, like the name of the show is really wonderfully done, but I think it means something very small for most people, right? Like Euphoria, I mean, is loosely correlated with drugs and partying or sex at that, and I think they really expanded on that theme to encompass something that's way more broad or like human than just the drug aspect.
right. No, they really. I mean, it's a telling title, and obviously deliberate, right? But I mean, it encompasses all those things. Like it's ironic almost because it's like everyone's supposed to, it's titled Euphoria, and everyone does drugs, and everyone's supposed to have this essence of euphoric behavior, right? You're in high school, it's
Hmm.
partying, it's fun, and all this stuff, but it's like everyone is dealing with such extreme trauma in
Oh
the
my
show.
god.
Like every character, like nobody. I can't think of one character in that show that's just like kind of chilling. You know what I mean? Especially in season one, and I
No.
guess especially in season two. It's ironic, but I feel like that's why the title works so well because it's like you're set up for this expectation that it's gonna be
Euphoric.
euphoric, and it's like this is not. I don't know if anyone's experiencing euphoria, and maybe, and this is just speculation, right? But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's like really what is euphoria? This never-ending chase for finding that feeling. And in Rue's case, she's like she has her own euphoria, but it's really just numbing, right? She's just numbing everything she's going through, and it makes sense because she's she lost a father, and I think they get into this more in season two. If they do in season one, I don't remember, so I apologize. But in season two, they really get in the point where she's like, yeah, like no one came and hugged me, and she just felt alone. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Except for her one friend, and then she like alienated that person. I forget the friend's name.
Oh,
Lexi?
Lexi,
Yeah.
the one who did the play at the end of
Yes.
season two. Yeah.
Yeah, Lexi. I mean, it's kind of a perfect title for that reason.
Oh yeah, and I also think too, like having a character like Rue being the vehicle through which the audience sees every character is a really interesting idea because it's almost like you have a distrustful narrator, but you end up sympathizing with her because if can you imagine like the lens through which she's an addict, right? So her entire lens is going to be colored by the perception of the drug she's on, right?
Yeah.
And you see her like blow up multiple times through people who actually look out for her, like Fez or Fet
Fez, yeah.
wound up being one of my favorite characters throughout
Same.
the show. And like he's a drug dealer with a moral code, but yet he's not afraid to go ham. Like
Right, and that's why he's so appealing, right? He's like the bad boy. It's like a different take on a bad boy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's
And
not
you
no
could easily write him off as like the dumb character, right? Like initially.
yeah, but he may be okay. We just had this conversation, but
Yeah.
he maybe isn't intelligent, but he's wise. In that
Yeah.
sense.
There's something
Uh,
about his character that doesn't make sense to me that I find really compelling.
right, right, and that's. I mean, he becomes so lovable like right after the season two, episode one.
Hmm.
I don't remember which episode it is, but in season one, when Nate kind of confronts him, or
Hmm.
he confronts Nate actually, I believe, and he's like, "Hey, leave them alone." And Nate says something. He's kind of like, "What are you gonna do?" or whatever he says. I forgot exactly. And I feel like everyone watching that, because Nate's a terrible person, right? He sucks.
Oh yeah.
Like he's just this
I feel like they just
asshole. Like,
build up his character to like to just be the villain
yeah, oh
without
for
being
sure,
the villain.
for sure. I mean, he's the villain, and you almost don't want him to be just because of what like his internal struggle,
Yeah.
but the way he's processing that, and then processing all of the stuff he's dealing with internally, and then how he's treating other people, it's like it gets to a point where it's unforgivable. So that's Nate, and then so everyone's rooting for Fez to just beat his ass in season one, and it doesn't happen. But then they give it to us
First episode, they
first
just go
episode,
ham.
and I mean it's so like just nice to watch. Not nice, but maybe nice isn't the right word.
It's like a just desserts thing, kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
But
like
it's also weird too because it's like at one level, because it doesn't make sense for Fez's character, at least at the buildup of that episode, because he's having like a totally normal conversation, and he's like, "Oh well, I guess I gotta go. See you later." and then he just starts going off like 0 to 100.
And that's what's dope. You show like the dynamics of his character, right? Like he's
Yeah,
chill, he's wise. He was really connecting with this girl who seems like she's always on the outside, right? Saying
she's
all
not a
the right,
partier. Like she's just a friend who's kind of there, kind of
right.
girl.
Like she's the outcast, you know what I mean? In this
Hmm.
group of all these heinous people who are crazy, partying, doing drugs, and having.
She might be the most normal character of the group.
She is. She definitely is. Which is perfect why she's the one to put on the play because she's the observer the whole time.
Wow.
So it makes sense because she's the outcast. Her sister is this like, really attractive high schooler, gets all the attention, and then she's like just has to watch everything unfold. Like she's never the main character in the story,
Hmm.
which is why it makes sense that she makes the play from her point of view, and you
And then
can
she
see,
becomes the main character. Wow, that's
yeah,
so layered.
right. And that's why the play I think works so well because like if Rue put on the play, it wouldn't like impact the way it did in terms of like as an audience member like me and you
Yeah.
watching that show. So seeing it from Lexi's point of view, it's kind of like what we're watching, a little bit blown up, but
Right.
it's like, oh, we can relate with her because we're like, oh, we're watching the same thing and these motherfuckers are crazy. Like, like like there's all this stuff going on. So then,
Man, that's
Fez
so
comes
cool.
in and he's saying all the right things and making her feel seen. And it's like it's easy to relate to that because I feel like people generally all have had moments where they feel kind of left out or like, things like that. So then having, this tough
Invisible.
dude just say all the right things and really get you, like, oh man, what a likable guy, you know?
It's so cool. The one thing I will say too is like, I remember you saying in our previous podcast talking about, or we just mentioned the show, but not for any detail. But you'd said like it's one of those things at the beginning of the episode, it just kind of something you look forward to. And I didn't know what you meant by that until I started watching. And the intros, like those hard openers for every episode, wound up becoming some of my favorite pieces of like short film work. Like I could just watch shorts of that kind of style stuff all day.
Dude,
Like it was so well done.
every time, every episode. So this was one, like probably more than any other show that I've watched something that where every episode I was more and more impressed. Like it just kept
Hmm.
building. But like one, the creativity, and I wish I knew like the cinematographers and all that who like creatively shot this thing. Man, like every episode just built up and like shot everything and told the story in such a creative way.
Hmm.
Um,
Some of the camera moves are incredible.
yeah,
Like where they string these really long shots through. Like I remember the one of the scenes was during the carnival where they would have these long camera pans through like crowds and stuff. And it's like one continuous shot of these people, like the main characters walking through the crowds and stuff. I'm like, how did they plan this stuff? Like, it's hard to do.
it's hard. It's hard. They did the same thing at the one of the parties. I think in the first episode of the second season. I think at the party it was like
Like around the pool, I think.
yeah, yeah, they made it seem like it's one take at the very least, but they like
Hmm.
follow one character. You have this scene going on, and then someone walks by, they follow them, and it's like, oh, now you're looking at this, and it's just it
Yeah.
helps the engagement than just
Oh
like
my God.
having like constant cuts. You know,
Hmm.
makes you feel like you're at the party.
The
And you're just
immersion is
watching them.
incredible.
I mean, it's a it getting into the controversy. I guess it's disappointing that, and I can say this because I was in that crowd initially, right? And the kind of like it's too much. You shouldn't watch that. This shouldn't be on. I was that person at one point.
Hmm.
Um, and it's disappointing because it's like it's so much more than that, right? Like if you can get past the triggering aspect or the how graphic it is and all that stuff, and just appreciate it for the camera work and for how they're telling these stories and how they're having Lexi put on this crazy crescendo of a climax at the end of this show, the play,
Hmm.
and you're just seeing that from her point of view, and it's like, oh, this character who's been kind of like the wallflower, and
Yeah.
then she's telling the same thing. We've already seen this, like we've been watching this. We know, you know what I mean. But they're
But
telling it from
somehow it
her point of
feels
view,
unique and fresh at the same time. Like, wow.
right? It's so dope, and like, and then seeing the actual cast members in the audience reacting to seeing themselves is fucking awesome. Like the stress, like with that whole
Hmm.
Nate scene, which was so absurd. It's just like that whole, like, I don't know what you call it, but that like gay, it's like a gay song they put on, and they just like fuming the whole time. That scene, I was
The
like,
the
yo,
the locker room one, right? Where
yeah,
they're like doing the musical rendition of the locker room.
yeah. And I swear it went on for like almost 10 minutes. It was
The
so
the
absurd.
best part is that that's like what the crowd is probably like us, the viewers, probably thinking about Nate.
Right,
And it's like then in the show, they're like giving you what you're thinking.
right. And it's just, dude. I
Oh, it's
mean,
great.
it's just, I mean, it's awesome. And you texted this earlier today, but
Yep.
there's a there's a perfect line in the very last episode, right? Um, that I don't know this character's name. She's one of the side characters.
Yeah, she doesn't
Um,
really show up until like the end of that episode as she's like planning Lexi's planning the play. I
yeah,
don't even know if
yeah,
they mention her name. All that maybe once or twice, but I can't remember her name. But she's really specific, like she's hard to forget.
right, right. She has a very unique, like high pitched voice.
Yes.
But she says, so the play is, I think it's over, or maybe it's like an intermission or something.
I think it's like
Uh,
after the blow up where everyone's not sure if that was part of the play or not.
right, that's what, which that was insane, but like that kind of like meta,
Yeah,
like
it's super meta.
right? Like people are like, "Is this part of the play?" Like, dude, and it's like, damn, that's crazy. I thought it was gonna go like murderous crazy. I'm like, yo, Cassie's about to murder her. You know what I mean? People are gonna be like, "Is this the play?" But that, I mean, that was intense. But what this character says to Lexi in the midst of all this chaos, she, Lexi's worried, like, "Oh, is it bad? Like, people aren't gonna like it." Right. And then the friend comes up and she basically says, I don't want to butcher the quote. Okay. So after we just looked up the quote, thanks, Alex. Lexi's friend says to her, right, is art is supposed to be dangerous. If it's not, even if it's a disaster, at least it's not boring. And I'm like, yo, to deliver that in your finale episode in the middle of a play that you're telling about the show that you're making, but then also addressing not like the critics in the world of the show, but then addressing the critics about the show that you made, like that being Sam Levinson. What the hell? That was dope.
The mic drop of all mic drops for a season.
Seriously. And I'm like, that what a tactful way to respond to all the critics,
Oh yeah.
right?
To me, it's just one, it's incredible because it fits not only to the show, like it didn't feel thrown on at all, but it kind of is like that's the point. Like I'm supposed to make people riled up and be emotional about this because now you're thinking about something that's really important. Like this entire thing is like, I mean, we haven't even touched on it because there's so much to talk about, but it's like, what is the theme of the show? And I mean, I think honestly, the theme of the show is to encapsulate this idea of empathy or compassion for other people. Because no matter what people look like or behave like, there's some sort of skeleton that they're dealing with that's not even really their fault. It's from a family member or a friend or some other circumstance that put them there, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, I mean, that's spot on because I think it 100% is about empathy and, looking at these people. Nobody's perfect in the show. Everyone has something, right? That makes
Monumental
them
flaws.
right. Like, and so like, you're not supposed to look at any of these characters and be like, oh, they're such a good person. There's really like, you know, they all have questionable things they're doing, right? From Rue all the way to Jules, right? Um, and what I think the show is that like everyone has demons, everyone's going through something, especially in high school, right? Because everything's just, even like for us, I know in high school it wasn't like that, but everyone like the things we're going through are just, it seems like the most important thing in the world because that's at that age, that's what it
That's
is.
high
Like
school.
right, like everything's the most important thing. So, we're looking at these people and saying like, damn, they have real flaws, excuse me, that we can all relate to, and it's like there aren't bad people, they're just going through whatever they're going through. And I think that's the point, and they're showing it in such a graphic, triggering, unforgiving way that is going to ruffle feathers, but
Mhm.
like that's the point, right? The point, if you can't play everything safe, right? And the idea here is I'm going to go off a little bit, but like in art, you have people who, are artists that kind of stay in their lane, play the safe thing. They know like there's a proven trajectory of things that work. Like think of like pop music or something like that, right? Like for example, you have Drake. Now, to me, Drake is an amazing artist, right? a lot of people don't like him because they say like his style hasn't changed or for whatever reason, but that's part of it. But I'm like, well, he's a pop artist. He does what he does really well, but he does what he does. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're gonna get Drake on a Drake album. You know what you're
Yeah.
getting into, right? It's not gonna be like groundbreaking music necessarily, for better or worse. And that's fine. That can be its own thing. But then you have these extremely experimental people like um just top of the head is like Kanye West, not the
That,
person, but the art.
that's who exactly I was gonna thinking
That's it.
of.
Right. But like not and the persona or whatever aside, but just the music. Each time he drops an album, it's usually so different than the last one. Right. He always pushing the envelope of what's art. And sometimes it doesn't hit. Like people look at some of his albums, say that was so stupid, that was crazy. Why'd he do that? And it's like, okay, but that's the point. He's pushing the envelope. The point, it doesn't always work, but at least it got you thinking like, what the hell am I listening to? You know what I mean? And I think that's the power of art because you can have both and they can both work. But if you're really trying to get a point across or articulate like these hard topics, you're gonna ruffle feathers, or you should ruffle feathers, make people uncomfortable because
Right.
that's life.
And I mean, even if you just look at it from the story perspective, not from a music perspective at least, but at least in Euphoria, a lot of the characters are making decisions that real people confront. But if they did the quote unquote right thing to do, that the audience member is like, please don't do that. Like, don't do the drugs again, Rue. Like, you're rooting for them not to make a mistake, but then they make the mistake, and you're like, fuck. You know what I mean? But that's like part of it because they're dealing with the repercussions of, something real. And it's almost like you can watch a fictional character go through these things, but then it gives you a blueprint of like what it's like to live that life in some sense. Like it's not super real, but even Rue's sponsor, I forget his name, he's like an awesome actor. I thought the
Yeah.
scenes that he was in were really good, and like he does a masterful job of dealing, like putting up with her shit
Right.
throughout the show. And then like at the very like right before everything goes to hell, which we'll talk about that episode because I think it's one of the most insane episodes ever written or produced.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to describe beyond that, but
Yeah.
I'm tangenting. But this is the episode where she gets a whole bunch of money, and he's like, what's in the what's in the suitcase? And she's like, oh, nothing. Like totally dodging it, and he knows. Like he's like, you're so full of bullshit. And so she blows up on him, and he's like, you ever do that to me ever again, I'm done with you. And you feel every second of that. And it's like you all of us know those kinds of, like, have at least some family member or some friend who's dealt with something like that, and know that feeling of being so done with someone because they don't want to help themselves.
What I liked about their dynamic is like he is what Rue he's like a possible um reality of like Rue's future. And
Hmm.
that might not make sense, but like Rue can become him. If she does the right things, she will
Yeah.
become like that person that he was to her. And then she can do the same thing for someone else going through whatever they're going through because even he has trauma and he made super big mistakes. I forget exactly what it was, but I
I think
think
he did cocaine or something like that, if I remember correctly.
it was
Or that.
cocaine, but I think he like hit his kid or something like that. I
Oh, really?
forgot.
Okay, I must have missed
Yeah,
that.
it was in the well, you might not have seen it unless you watched the specials. I don't know if you watched
Oh, okay, like
those.
the post episode stuff. I watched a
Yeah.
couple of those, but I didn't get through all of them yet.
Oh, no, no, I'm sorry, not those. There was like two special episodes that came out in between season 1 and season
Oh,
2.
really? I did not
Yeah,
know that.
there's one of that's about Rue, and it's literally an episode with Rue and then that character. We forget his name, but that character, they're just having a conversation in a diner, and he
Oh,
explains like
wow.
what he's went through, and I don't remember, but it's something to do with his kids. Like he can't see his kids anymore because he did something.
Wow.
Um, and so that's what he's referring to when he says like you don't get to use what I told you against me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's what he's referring to, and he has his own trauma. You know what I mean? And that's exactly where Rue is. Like she's having her own trauma, or whatever that is, and it stems from something, right? Like her father passing, and then being prescribed these drugs, but then going,
Further.
trying to numb everything, and she's numbing to
Mhm.
the point where she like doesn't she doesn't feel anything. Like she doesn't even feel like sex doesn't even mean anything to her, right? And it's sad to see, but then it's like, at what point do you let this person lash out? And like we see in that episode with her mom and her sister, and like the things she says to Jules, it's like, fuck, man, like she's hurt. She's so hurt that she's able to say that kind of stuff to the people she cares about the most.
Yep.
Um,
It's that I mean that episode was so intense. Like I felt like I was watching almost like a documentary with how like intense that episode was.
yeah,
Like j- there's very few moments where you see the character and the actor or the actor disappear into the character. And I
yeah,
felt like that episode, not only did Zendaya disappear into Rue, but I thought the her mother and her sister also disappeared.
yeah,
You know, because
yeah,
everything felt so raw and just like I don't know. It's just crazy because like
yeah,
I just feel like most of us know what it's like or know somebody who has had someone be that deep into some sort of addictive behavior, and that's where they go, and it's like basically the brain gets rewritten to just want like it's not even them talking anymore, it's just the drug talking,
right.
and the drug will say anything to get more of it, right? Or the brain will
Mhm.
convince itself to do anything, and it's just I mean the whole episode was just a roller coaster.
Yeah. I don't think like, I think I wasn't breathing when I was watching that. Like, it was so intense that I was just like, "Oh, shit." Like, it just didn't stop. Like, right from the jump, it didn't stop.
Yeah.
And what I thought they did perfectly, and this is like the art of suspense, I guess you can call it, if you wanna be, like, whatever, annoying. But but it really was like a masterclass on what suspense is, because so one, you have this character who she's established, right? We know she's an addict. Just now her drugs are gone. Not only are her drugs gone, so she can't get high anymore, and she had a plan to, end her life. That's why she did what she did. She met up with. Can you hear those sirens?
Yeah,
Can you?
they're a little bit there, but they're not super
Okay.
bad.
Jeez, LA, relax. Sorry that just it was like super loud in the headphones. um, anyway, what I was saying. So we know who Rue is, right? And she had a obvious plan to end her life. That's why she got the
Mhm.
drugs from Lori. I think her name was a drug dealer. Um, she gets all these pills.
She terrifies me.
Oh, dude, what the? That character is. I hope she comes back season 3. I hope they don't lose that plot line.
They can't because she
Right?
Rue owes too much money.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, something. She's gonna come back. She should come back.
Oh yeah.
And my guess is that Rue will be healthy, or on the path to like true recovery, and then that's gonna blow shit up.
Hmm.
Maybe literally. But but she gets the drugs from her, thinking like, my life's gonna be over. It's not gonna matter. There's not gonna be repercussions. So she has this plan, but then, oh, the drugs are gone. So not only is she, going through withdrawal, trying to get high, trying to end her life, but now she's like, oh shit, this lady is gonna kill us. Like, she's gonna kill not just me because I'm still alive, so like her family too.
Yeah.
So all that suspense in that episode, and then she's like going from, lashing out because she's pissed, to like fear because, like, wait, what did you do? You don't understand what you did. This is not just about me getting high. Like, this is bad. And then to like despair, to realizing that she's being a terrible person, but then reverting, like falling right back in that tunnel. Dude, that episode is so good. Like,
Yeah.
oh my
It's
god.
incredible. And the way it end, like I couldn't even watch the ending of that because like she basically is so desperate. She tries everybody and then she falls back onto the one person that she knows is gonna give her the thing that she wants, but in the worst possible way.
Right.
Because Lori didn't do that because she cared about Rue. Lori did that because she has a token over Rue.
Yes. Yeah.
Not you know what I mean?
I missed that at first. I think I was so like wrapped into it, and maybe I was like emotionally exhausted by that point. um, but I thought she was actually being like genuine. And then I think Alex said something. I think Alex was like, I forgot exactly what she said, but she said something like, "Oh, is she gonna like traffic her?" And I was like, "Huh?" It's like, no, she's helping her out. And then I was like, "Oh, wait a minute." I was
Oh
like,
no, I think
"Yeah,
she gave that hint very, very,
yeah,
very directly. And
yeah." No,
like
I missed it.
that scene too, just of like the injection thing where you see like the blood go into the syringe. I was like, please stop this. I'm like, I can't, because like you hear the like the vocals of like her talking and soothing at the same time, and it's like, don't worry, we're gonna make this all better. I'm like, this is so fucked.
It's creepy. It's
It's
creepy.
so nuts. Plus, she just has that like ultimate monotone delivery. So like she's just a robot. I mean, for for lack of a better
She sounds
term.
like she'd be a very nice woman. Like,
Yes,
just sonically, like, her voice sounds like, "Oh, she cares about me. She's
she's
gonna help
sweet,
me." Yeah, but fuck.
but she means the exact opposite. She's a freaking hyena.
Right. Right. But man, like, I mean, that episode was insane, but even the part that really, I think, struck me the most, I think this is when I was, like, emotionally drained because I was like, "That was heavy," but
Hmm.
how Rue was attacking Jules, that
Yeah.
exchange, and, like, people are on the fence of, like, "Oh, what Rue was saying was true about Jules," and, like, maybe it was, but what got me was Jules' response the whole time, because Rue was digging into her, like, saying some of the most hurtful shit you can
Oh
say to
yeah.
someone, and Rue just kept saying, like, "I love you. I love you. I love you," and I was just like, "Fuck," like, because that's what Rue needed,
Yeah.
right? So it's kinda like, just ignore the hurt, because
Right.
someone I care about needs this more than anything else. That was, like, heavy.
Oh
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, heavy. Um, but I think that's what, like, makes their relationship so special, you know?
Yeah. I think I think that's spot on. And it's like it's crazy too to like see the composure there, right? Because again, this kind of goes back to that comment I made about like addiction and just as a broader thing is it makes you say like it makes you use the things you know about the people you care about against them. And because like you know what to say to people that's going to do the maximum damage possible, and the goal is just to push them away.
Right.
Because when you're addicted to something or feeling, I mean, I would assume Rue is probably depressed, even though she probably isn't diagnosed,
Oh,
or
she's for sure depressed.
not clearly. It doesn't ever come up like directly. But when you're feeling like that negative, all you want to do is push everyone away because it just, self-soothing or making it true of the very thing you feel about yourself, right?
Right. Right.
And so it's just like you're just trying to create the self-fulfilling prophecy by saying that. And Jules didn't take the bait at all.
Mhm.
She just, was there as best she
Right.
could, which is
Right.
just, I mean, it's heart-wrenching, right? Like you
There
said, it's just
there was, and
crazy.
that's why Jules is my favorite character in the show. Because I think she displayed the truest depiction, at least so far in the show, of someone who cares endlessly about the person who needs it the most, even if they don't want it, right? Ostensibly, if they don't want it. Um,
She grew, I
because
think she might have grown the most out of all the characters from season 1 to season 2.
yeah, I agree. And like, maybe people are like, oh, but Jules was like cheating on Rue, right? With
Mhm.
Elliot. Um, but I'm like, true, but like, she still has her flaws, right? She grew the most. She still has flaws. Like, you don't cheat on your person, right?
Right.
But um, just in that moment when she like, okay, I'm like, Rue relapsed. I have to tell her mom. You know how hard that's gonna be, right? But she's doing like all the mature, responsible things
I mean, at least
in
you
that
said the
scenario.
right thing in that situation, right? Can you imagine how hard that was? Like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, could I, if I was in high school again, and I knew some of my friends were like one of you guys was doing hard drugs, I'm like, could I do that?
Yeah,
You know what
it,
I mean? Like, it's
yeah,
such a hard thing to like even contemplate.
right. I feel like we all want to we want to say or want to believe we would be able to, but it's different when
Right.
it's actually happening. And I'm sure that, I mean, that's happened, to people probably all the time, and they maybe not even to necessarily addicts to drugs in that regard, but maybe like alcoholics, which is, still addiction. But
Right. Yeah.
um,
Like, I guess even if you back that off, and like, say you had a friend who was drinking too much alcohol,
right,
would you have the balls to either confront them and say, "Hey, you might want to consider cutting back," or would you just let them continue on? Right.
right. It's tough, but that's why I'm like, Jules is a good person to be able to take that, do the right thing. Also, to be to just be at the house with all that shit going on, like Rue going crazy, breaking down doors and shit, and you're just in the living room. I personally would have been like, "Yo, I'll come back in like 30 minutes." Like, yeah, like,
Also, Rue being able to break down a door, she's like a whole 110 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, that part I was like, damn, she's on a rage. Like this isn't just a withdrawal. This is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
dude.
but it was scary. I think they really nailed what it seems like to, you know, be around or have someone going through, that strong of an addict and going through that heavy of a withdrawal. I think they nailed it because it probably gets scary. I never experienced that, but like I can imagine it gets scary. So like seeing your sister or your daughter break down the door that you locked yourself in a room, that's it's fucking terrifying.
Oh
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like that's crazy. But that to me, that is like I always knew Zendaya was a great actress, but now I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like
Like,
now it hit you, and you're like, uh-huh.
yeah, that that was some of the best acting I think I've seen in TV ever. Like,
Yeah.
it, I mean, the show is something. It's really something special, and I hope people let go of the the heavy-handed critiques of it.
Yeah.
Um, because everything should be critiqued, but we shouldn't disregard it just because it makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, it's like we talked about this off air, but it's I feel like a lot of critiques come from people who hear things through the grapevine and then make a comment about it based on what they hear from other people, and or they in too quickly judge it because of their own, you know, opinion on a certain topic,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I mean, I guess that's human to some degree, but
It
also,
is. It is.
like I think part of the reason film and I mean even music is compelling is that you're going to be exposed to opinions or ideas that you hadn't really thought of that way before. And I think that's like the core of it. And we talked about this based on season two. I kind of equated it. I knew we were going to do this. I didn't text you because I didn't want to pitch, but it reminds me of Breaking Bad.
Oh man. Okay, go. How so?
And like the reason being is like that the intro to I think episode was or season two episode one where they show the backstory of Fez and
Mhm,
his upbringing. I was like, damn, this really feels like Breaking Bad, like toward later half of Breaking Bad, with like running the shop. But
mhm.
in this sense, you get the Fez's life of like him being exposed to drugs and crime, and it's being pulled into that world not because you wanted to, but that's just the only world you know. And like baking, but like that really gritty style of it, like that whole episode starting where you have his grandma walk into this, it looks, I think it's like a strip club or something like that, but she just basically goes in guns blazing and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm like, what show am I watching here? Like this is, I'm like, is this the Sopranos? Or
Right? It
like
did feel different for sure. It
it
was
felt
like,
so different, but it felt like that same level of like, bad people aren't don't people don't start out bad. It's through their life circumstances that they make decisions that they feel trapped in the life that they have, which outside looking in, if you have a different worldview, it looks like a bad life.
right.
And I mean, it's really similar. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but there is a Nat Geo show called Trafficked, and it talks, it's like explores the black markets of everything. So
Okay.
between guns, heroin, endangered species like tigers,
Mhm,
anything and everything in between. But what they do is they end up interviewing people at the low level, like the dealers on the street kind of people. And they
mhm.
ask them like, do you realize what you're doing is hurting people? And it's like, well, yeah, but I got to put food on the table. I got to pay for
Right.
people, and
Right.
it's like, can you really like, and they don't feel like they have options. And that's what I kind of felt like someone like Fez was. And that's why I equated this to Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad is a story of a father who feels like he's run out of options.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, how does someone who has no options slowly become a drug kingpin?
Right. And no, I think that's a good comparison. I didn't see that, but I'm also trying to like not see Breaking Bad and everything. but I know it does make sense, especially what I think. Just to touch on it, what I think Breaking Bad did well is just really show how someone can go from a nice, good person going through life, doing what they're supposed to do by society standards, and then hitting a wall of desperation where they need to make a change and fast, right? And so
Yep.
I think and then how that can manifest over time if you aren't aware enough to pull yourself out. So I think that's what Breaking Bad shows well. And now what we have here with Fez is kind of the same thing. It's exposure. It's all he knew. He was desperate. He's not someone who's gonna fucking. He's not a school kid. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
not gonna do well in the school system because he wasn't brought up like that. So it's showing that like in at least in Fez's sense, not so much Walt's sense, but in Fez's sense, it's like this is a good person who's just exposed to bad things,
Yeah.
right? But I
Not
think
to
inherent
mention the wild card of the head trauma,
that too. So like now his development is
right?
messed up. I forgot about that. But yeah, so I mean that is a good. I think that's a good comparison. It's just they do again. This goes back to like the compassion thing, right? And it's funny that probably one of the most liked characters is the drug dealer who gives Rue her drugs and is part of he's facilitating her drug use and he's part of the reason she's is how she
Right, you're
is.
right. I
You
can't
know,
help but like him though.
right? But like he's a likable guy, and you can. But it just goes to show nobody in the show is perfect. So like
Yeah.
you can't really like anyone. Like I've had conversation with people and they're like, "Oh, I hate Rue," and I'm like, "Well, I don't think you're supposed to like her though." Like I don't think she's not really a likable person. But
I
like
feel like nobody in the show is a role model. Like there's like
exactly nobody.
bright spots for characters' decisions. Like, oh, that was really adult. But then it's like there's a lot more stumbles than there are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that I think that's the point. That so then you start
Mhm.
clinging to someone, but then if you look close enough, you're like, oh, they're kind of shitty too. You know what I mean? And that's the
Mhm.
point. So it's just showing, teaching how to be compassionate. Everyone has demons, traumas. I think Cal's storyline is the hardest one to grasp because of what he did in season one. But then it's released, and I forget which episode, maybe episode four. I forget which one.
I think it
But
was like
seeing,
episode 4
yeah,
where you
but
see
see,
his backstory.
and then seeing his
Yeah.
release when he, explodes on his family, it's like, oh, this dude has just been repressing,
All of it.
his experiences his entire life. So like you can be empathetic in that sense. You don't have to forgive the actions, but you can be empathetic and say, okay, I get where you're coming from. You're probably not a, really a bad person, really inherently like a malicious bad person, but you're just fucked up and you need help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Like, yeah, to me, it's like you can understand the theme of it here, right? Like, if you just look at it for not the specifics, but just like, here's a guy who sacrificed what he really wanted from life because he did what he was supposed to do, or rather, made a mistake and got someone pregnant when he probably shouldn't have. And then he doubled down on that mistake instead of, you know, saying the truth.
right. And I mean it's a commentary on toxic masculinity because it's like he's this macho dude, right?
He's probably the most one of the most masculine characters in the entire show, besides
Yeah,
outside of his son.
right. And his son has the same issue, right? But it's like this toxic masculinity that's so afraid of like sexuality and being
Caring.
yeah caring or being gay even, and it's like repressing all that, and it's like is it worth it just to have this like this hard exterior? Like no, like it's not worth it, period, right?
I mean, I guess the broader question is, does like being soft mean you're like gay? Like, you know what
Exactly. In
I
their
mean?
case,
Like,
they
what?
were. In their case, they were. Like they were gay, um,
Right.
but yeah, I think the broader, if you look at a broader scale, if you just pull back a little bit, it is saying like you don't have to hold things in about who you are just because you're a man, right?
Yeah.
Because now they're blowing this up because it's what art is supposed to do, right? We already covered that, but it's blowing it up and saying like this can be your reality, or it might be someone's reality that because they can't be open with who they are to the people
Yeah.
they love the most. And if you can't do that, then what do you do? Like if you can't be open to the people you care about the most and who care about you the most, and you're hiding your true self to those people, what's the point of life? Yeah,
I
you know
mean,
what I
what
mean? Like
life are
what?
you living, dude?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. That is so crazy. But what's even more crazy is there are people that do that in real life
All the time.
more
All the
than we
time.
know.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
it's
the most normal person you could be seeing is likely doing that in some
right.
form in their life.
Right. And in some ways it's like a defense. You can't be open with everyone, right? And you shouldn't be.
Oh,
But there's people in all of our lives who I think have earned that right. and those people we should trust enough to be the truest form of ourselves, or maybe not the truest, but well, maybe it's a synonym, but like the most vulnerable form of ourselves
Mhm.
to those people, because you need to release, right? You need to release your inner demons and trauma. You can't keep it all in forever and act as if, you're made of armor that can't be chipped, right? Because no one is like that.
Yeah. I mean, we're not, none of us is impervious, right? Like, no matter how much it's like almost the more you pretend like nothing bothers you, the more things bother you. And it's just a matter of time where it explodes. And I mean,
Exactly.
Cal's character is kind of that. Like, throughout these two seasons, his character kind of just, I mean, realistically, just gets more and more unstable until at the very end of of that, where he's like peeing on the ground and like it's just wild, honestly. And then,
Hmm.
I mean, his son kind of takes into his own hands with the ending there, which I
Yeah.
thought was kind of crazy too. Just like he takes care of the issue, kind of calls the police on him, and
Yeah.
also does like the right thing at the very end because there's a tape of Jules, and I'm like, what? I'm like,
Hmm.
why is he do like this? Is so weird.
Yeah. He's weird.
It's so
um,
wild.
I don't like. He had a gun. I don't know why he had the gun. Like, why do you have it if you're just
Exactly.
gonna call the cops? I don't.
Like so much excessive force. Like
Right? It's like I don't get you, bro. Um, but
so over the top all the time.
he's probably more damaged than Cal is, honestly, because even Cal's like, I don't know who you are, and
Oh
Cal's
yeah.
dealing with the same thing he is. So that's, I mean, that's telling, right? Um, but what's funny, and I might be wrong here, but what's funny is I think when Cal finally is like, I'm gonna open up to my family, is when he goes to Fez. And he's like, there's a tape, and I think he admits to being gay or something. And Fez is like,
Hmm.
I don't give a fuck. Like, Fez is like, I don't fucking care, dude. He's like, just get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he
Uh,
thought, well, he thought Fez knew, I think, and he's
yeah,
like, bruh, like, what do you like? You could do whatever you want,
right. Fez is like,
which is
it
like
has
perfect
nothing.
reaction.
He's like, that has nothing to do with me, dude. And then I think Cal was like, oh, I guess people don't really care. Like, I don't know. It's just, there's so many layers to that show, and it's one I'm going to rewatch from start of season one to, to current. But it's it's really good. I think it's really important too.
It's wild. It's a
Yeah.
wild show because I think it really pushes on a lot of like modern ideas, and it doesn't just push buttons because it can. I mean, to some degree it does, but it also does it in a tactful way that makes sense to each of the characters. At this point, it's probably an elementary school thing. Everyone repeats it, but it does a good job of showing, not telling. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't. There's very little like expository nature of the show, like outside of Rue's narration stuff, but it's more of like Rue's unique way of explaining things, like the slideshow
Mhm.
episode parts that are hilarious.
I love those. I love those.
But those are more just like unique, creative things the filmmakers decided to do that fit the character kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like character quirks, not just expository to explain things to the audience.
Right. And they're not in the voiceovers, because I usually am not a fan of voiceovers, but it's not
Hmm.
just telling you what you're seeing. Right. It's
No.
adding something to the scene. And I'm like, okay, that if you can do it like that, that's cool. I'm all for it.
To me, it's
Uh,
almost like a novel where it's like reading a narration,
like a
but
first
instead
person.
yeah, but instead of like just reading it on the page, you have like images going by that fit with what's being explained. Like this is how Rue's character imagines these scenes.
Right. Yeah.
You
Her
know?
perception of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's funny because it can be like ironic what she's saying to like what you're seeing, and what she's saying is like, that doesn't exactly align, but like
Yeah.
I get it. You know what I mean? So like they do it well. They do it really well.
Hmm.
I didn't get the feeling that they're providing shock value for the sake of it. Like, to me, it felt like it all had a purpose. Granted, it's graphic, and I am
It's
still a
still graphic.
proponent, of like, you don't need to show sex and like nudity to get the point across.
Hmm.
That's just my personal take on things. Like, I feel like Game of Thrones, I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, like, we get it. You can
Yeah.
you can allude to it and we'll get the picture. But then at the same time, it's like, but then would that make it would become something other than what it is?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it works because it's that, like, I can never I won't say I couldn't write for Euphoria, but I couldn't have been the one to create Euphoria. That makes
Yeah.
sense?
I can
Like,
see
I can
that.
be brought into the world and create within this
Something with
established
it.
world that's there, but I wouldn't. It's like way too like graphic of a
Yeah.
show. triggering for me to like really
it,
have come up with that on my own, if that makes
I
sense.
mean, even though it's dark, like right, like it's dealing with real themes that I think I would be worried. Like if I were someone who was writing on the show or something, I would be worried about being like a dark person. Like I'd have to like decompress after
Oh,
being a part of it. You know what I mean? Like I just need to be like, all right, I got this done, but I'm gonna need to go and just like chill out and like go find bunnies in a forest or something.
for sure. No, it's definitely. I mean, imagine acting in it, dude. Like,
I know. Like
yeah,
it I cannot believe that some of the characters were able to do what they did and pull it off.
yeah. I mean,
You
I
know.
wonder if any of them method act. I would, you might need
I mean,
therapy after
Cassie's
something like that.
character was like a hot mess for like most of season 2.
Yeah, she's an amazing actress too. I think her career is gonna
Oh yeah.
really blow up.
I mean, it's incredible to see. Like, I mean, most of these characters were pretty unknown. Like
Yeah, outside of
outside of Zendaya, I think I don't really know any of those other actors in the show,
yeah,
but I think I can't think of anyone that I would say didn't do well.
right. I think Cal was in Grey's Anatomy. Honestly, I think that's it. That's like maybe like, but even that, like, I don't know what else he's in, and I don't
Right.
watch Grey's Anatomy, so I couldn't
I
tell. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you who he play. I think he played one of like the hot guys in Grey's
definitely
Anatomy. Yeah, right. But other than Zendaya, yeah, I mean, she's definitely like the draw, like
yeah,
from a
star power.
celebrity, yeah, star power perspective. Which also I think helps aids into how good the show is because you're not lost in like someone's celebrity.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
it's not just one character that's pushing the show forward, kind of thing.
yeah,
It's really, I think it's really good. I think if you like dramas that don't pull punches, I think it's worth people's time. And I understand it's not going to be for everyone. And I think, I mean, that's art too, right? It's
mhm,
subjective.
right. And that's an important distinction I think we should make, right? That you can look at something, watch something, hear something, whatever, right? And you
Hmm.
can say, I don't like that. That's perfectly normal and probably going to happen a lot. You're not going to like
Hmm.
everything. Nobody likes everything. But that doesn't mean it's bad.
Hmm.
Like, or not well done. I feel like that's an important distinction people need to start making, especially in these
Hmm.
shows that are pushing the boundaries and trying to say something, or else we're going to get fed all this BS that isn't saying anything, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
Objectively, you could like something like this goes back to music, right? Like you can like songs that are not technically mind blowing, but you can still say they're your favorite song.
right,
It doesn't mean it's like there could be multiple reasons you enjoy something.
right,
Like you don't have to enjoy something just because everyone else says they enjoy it. Like
exactly.
I was thinking about this about video games. Like there's certain video games that are kind of like whatever at this point. Like open world video games are dime a dozen nowadays. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, like you don't have to just judge a game by that singular merit. Like how many different shooter games are there? And we all know like everyone's gonna say like, well, Call of Duty sucks or whatever. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. But you could like Call of Duty for other reasons
Right,
than it being a shooter. Or you could like open world games, for other reasons.
right,
Like there's not just one aspect that makes something good or bad.
exactly. It's way too nuanced, and there's too much personal choice that goes
Yeah.
into something to it's really hard to ever say something objectively is bad, right? Y- what
Except
makes
country.
something bad? Except country. That's the whole that's a whole different discussion. Don't get me started. um,
I had to go there.
except country, but no, like it's I try to correct people on that all the time. I'm like, no, it's not bad.
Hmm.
You just don't like it, and that's fine. You don't have to like it. I
Right.
understand why you don't like it. It's fucking hard to watch. I didn't like it at first.
I
You know what
know.
I mean? Like that's normal. But to say something's bad, I'm like, you're discrediting all this work and effort that all these creatives and people are putting in to really push a narrative and like teach something about the world. I'm like,
Hmm.
it has you have to respect that they tried, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
Absolutely.
let me just put a run of the mill show and we're not going to really do anything. It's just another whatever. Like just
Right.
it doesn't really ask any questions. It's just like reality TV. I'll just say that widespread, not focusing on anyone, but just
Hmm.
widespread reality TV. I'm like, what is it? It's not. That's bad. That shit is toxic. You know what I mean? Like,
Like cancel it. Get rid of
right.
it.
But it is what it is.
I think you're right about that. Like if you think about it, to me, what's incredible is that a show like this got made in a world today where everyone's so worried about censorship and, you know, everything is too soft and whatnot like that. Like, here's a show that literally takes everything that most people want to cancel something for and says, all right, let's go.
Right.
And a producer had to okay that. Like, someone high up in HBO said, yeah, we'll be fine. Like, it'll be okay. We won't get misunderstood.
Right. And yo,
And they
thank God for them.
this is what we need. I seriously think this is like the only way we get through hard, complicated, messy things is being able to talk about the hard, messy, complicated things and trying to come to a better understanding about those kinds of people. I mean, how many different categories can you talk about, you know, in this
Yeah.
one show alone? Like, you go
Exactly.
from, you know, what does it mean to be a man? What is it like? What is the distinction between gay or not? You know, like
Hmm.
drug addiction. Like, how many categories can we talk about in one show? Right? We'd be here for another 4 hours.
Right. Literally. And then people write it off as it's not good. Come on, man.
I
They're
know.
really they're really they're really pushing something. I think it's an
It's a show
important
about high
show.
schoolers. I feel
Right.
like it has less to do about high school than most other things.
Yeah. I
It
just feel
just
like
so
if
happens that high school is the setting.
yeah, I feel like if you view it like that, it's like you're just not getting it. Like you're just not, and you're not. I feel like it's not that you don't get it because you're incapable. It's you're choosing not to. Two very
You're just
important
getting
things.
lost in. That's one of the things I've realized lately is like people will immediately like see the surface level setting thing of like, okay, it's the high schoolers, and this is how high schoolers live their lives or like experience things. And to me, it's less of that as a literal sense and more of like, okay, this is the vehicle from which you can understand why these characters make the decisions that they're making, but also it's like, why can they make all these mistakes and still grow and not like have horrible repercussions, right? Because if all these kids were like out of college or something, how many of these kids would go to jail?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
literally.
saying?
Yeah,
So it makes it just a more interesting backdrop to basically tell this story that makes it more accessible with, I guess, suspension to disbelief.
right, right. I think that's exactly right. And we should welcome these things. We should welcome artists who have something to say.
Hell yeah.